Hey guys, welcome. I am sitting here with Nicholas Gold. In fact, it is his 23rd birthday today. Happy birthday, wild man. Yeah. So Nicholas is from California,
Yeah.
right? He did a 9-month gap year. That's where I met you, right at the end of that, I think. And in Gainesville. And then he came here as one of the only gap people that have ever come. I think one of two that have come from gap, not World Race. And so Nicholas, you've been transformed while you've been here. But give us a little bit of your story, like what your childhood, just kind of quickly walk us through where you've been and what you've seen.
Yeah, so I grew up in a loving family, was born in California, moved around a lot across the country, not a lot of money growing up, and was a collegiate athlete and getting ready to do big things in that sphere where my life just kind of got derailed by some of the choices that I made. I found the Lord in July of 2017, right before I launched on the World Race.
Wow.
And then I went on the World Race in September 2017 and got back 2018, really confused, didn't really know what was going on. I knew I had this eye-opening experience with the Lord, but I didn't know what to do with it, where to go with any of this knowledge that I had, and I had experienced the love of the Lord, but I didn't know what it was.
Right. So the gap is for 18 to like 20-year-old, and they do 9 months. World Race they do 11.
Mm-hmm.
So you did the gap World Race, right?
Yeah.
And so you went on that, and you come home and you feel like, man, this is cool, but what's next?
Now what?
Yeah, which we hear all the time, obviously.
Right. So I met Gary at Project Searchlight, introduced myself, and just hit it off right away. Kind of knew in my heart that I needed to do something like a G42. I didn't know exactly why. I ended up team leading, and then after Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, where I team led for the World Race, I ended up here at G42, and that's really where the meat of any of my story began. Really.
Yeah, so you get here, and when Miles helped us get you here, man, big shout out to Miles. He's the guy we call in for guys that are turning from punk to manhood.
Yeah.
And you were a little bit of a punk when you got here. You had some ego. It was fantastic, you guys, on the basketball court. Is that first semester is where you could see Nicholas just come out. Well, it was Nick, and he kind of transformed into Nicholas as God transformed your heart into being a man and what that actually looks like. And so walk us through that a little bit of G42 and your transition.
Yeah, I think the thing that G42 gives more than anything is they introduce you to the idea that love is the point. That any religion, any rules, anything that we try and any type of law that we try to put ourselves under doesn't work. And what G42 does is it introduces you to this concept that you're born to be loved. And if you know that you're born to be loved, all of a sudden you're standing on top of the law, but under grace. And when those in that middle space between grace and the law, you actually get to experience the love of the Lord and then live righteously and live in a holy way. So that journey here at G42 involved a lot of tears first semester, starting day number 1. It involved being given really hefty challenges on practicum, which I needed.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So, as you guys know, we do 3 months here, and then they go on practicum somewhere on the planet for 3 months. And I made the choice. I kind of overrode and wanted to send Nicholas to Uganda. There, we worked with Rhino Camp. It is a refugee camp in North Uganda on the border of Sudan, and it's rough. I've been there myself, and there's no running water, there's no electricity. And you live out and you were there for 3 months, and you got malaria three times. And everything we had set up there kind of fell apart. So you had to create ministry and what you did there. So walk us through just a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I am a big proponent of, activated ministry and focused ministry, but when it all boils down to it, it's like what I said about coming to G42, it's about the love of God. And I've discovered in Uganda, one of the things that broke me free of pride and ego and that allowed me to step into freedom was also how I ministered to people. When you fail at everything, you have nothing left to prove. And when everything that you put your hand to from yourself fails, well, then you just get to rely on the Lord, and He provides opportunities.
So you're telling me failure is what drove you to what?
Failure is what drove me to grace.
So failure's okay.
Failure's great.
I don't know that a lot of your generation actually believes that.
I don't think so. I think, especially as a young man, you need failure. And then when I failed, I ran into mentors, and then mentors pointed me to, not redemption, but mentors pointed me down a road where I could use the lessons that I learned from failure.
Yeah, I think you said it to me really good in one of our one-on-ones. and our discipleship. You said, Black never gave me the answer. He just pointed me to a direction, and I had to go find the answer. Right?
Yeah.
That's true discipleship. We're not here as elders to fix their problems. We've over-coddled the generation. We've tried to keep them from pain. And so what we've stopped the process of failure and pain that actually is the greatest teacher, with love combined. You did that great on your project. And so never over-coddle them. Don't ever be the fix to their problem. Let them go find that for themselves, and never steal the hunt. If you steal the hunt from your children, if they come to you and say, hey, Dad, I want a go-kart. My son did when he was 13. I said, great, go work this summer and buy your own go-kart. And he did. He went and shoveled alpaca poop for the summer, made enough money, and we got the go-kart. And so your hunt wasn't stole. We said, let's just go for this thing. And you're in Uganda. You're laying in a hospital bed, malaria 3 times. And what's happening in your heart? What's happening in your spirit?
I'm experiencing this idea, this concept that especially young men in my generation really don't grasp. And there's, some principles of manhood, but I'm experiencing the love of the Lord because I realize my life is not about me. And that this journey that I'm on is not about my personal growth, but it's about accepting the love of the Lord, loving Him back, and then giving it away. And so in Uganda, finding this journey or finding the road to then go love people. So it looked as simple as babysitting kids for expats. It got as complicated as getting on a mountain bike and hunting down tribal leaders with a compass and a map and asking what they needed on the borderlands of South Sudan. But the only reason I got there, the only way you get to growth is to, I don't want to just say get broken, but it's kind of what we talk about here. You fall on the rock or the rock falls on you.
Yeah.
And neither way is fun, but the love of the Lord covers it all.
So you're broken, you're there, you're alone. You're with 2 of our girls and you're having issues with one of them. It wasn't the best for you, learning how to love.
We're close now.
Absolutely. That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
And you really transformed. You came back a different person, and you are crediting that to the failure, the hard, and doing it anyway.
Yeah, I think that there is a mixture of suffering and hope that you need in your life. And men find their sonship when they embrace suffering. But I don't want to just harp on the suffering. It's for the hope. Like, the word talks about for the hope set before Him, Christ endured all things. And I think that a lot of my generation is seeking a challenge for the challenge's sake. You need to seek challenges. You need to seek hope, and challenges will come.
Challenges are going to come anyway.
No matter what.
It's going to be hard anyway.
Yeah.
I like in Acts, I think it's Acts 9, when Paul gets called out, and they say, go find Paul. I'm going to show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake. And we don't like to talk about that suffering side.
Yeah.
And it's not the point to suffer, but you are going to suffer.
You will.
And you're going to have hard times. But you're saying that's to produce hope.
Yeah, it's endurance, which produces perseverance. And then all of a sudden...
Sounds a little scriptural to me.
A little bit scriptural,
Yeah.
but it's true. And all of a sudden, you have this lens of the world that no matter what comes at me, my one goal is to love people.
Yeah.
And to accept the love of the Lord. And you can hold on to that.
Okay, so you're in Generation Z. You're the last generation.
Yeah.
And you've got your whole 1%. It says, if the statistics are true, see the world biblically through the biblical eyes.
Right.
They don't go to church.
Right.
They're leaving the church in the masses, according to Barna and different research companies. What do you think is happening in your generation? What do you think the answer is?
I think that there are a lot of problems that stem from the generation itself, but also how the generations above have responded to those problems.
Yeah.
I think that there's a huge misunderstanding of Scripture, the point of existence, and my generation will not do anything unless they can attach value to it. Money will always be an issue in the world and people will always chase it, but my generation more than anything values experience. That's why you see programs like the World Race work so well, because we value experience versus trying to go make 6 figures. And you have a lot of kids sitting in these pews and they're looking for an experience. They're looking to encounter the love of the Lord. They don't even know it. And instead, in a lot of these, and this is not a knock against the Box Church, I'm a product of the Box Church. We're giving them boxes of donuts and smoke machines instead of the love of the Lord. So then you have to go find it. So you go on a journey. And that's kind of what brought me here.
So you go on this journey for experience.
For experiencing.
And then you run into the love of God.
Right.
And then what happens? You graduated the other day. You did your project. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So walk us through that last 3 months and that transformation.
I think these last 3 months I think what Practicum did for me was it actually let me own something for the first time in my life. I had experience to then draw from that was based on the love of the Lord, failure, and then redemption, as opposed to just my testimony. which is an amazing thing. But those three months on practicum actually let me own something for these past 3 months. And it was just small, it was a little taste. And I am excited because it gave me this drive to then go look for hope so that I can gain experience, to then go own more things so that I can give it away. So these past 3 months have been just more humbling, embracing the love of the Lord, and then dreaming big. I think dreaming big has been the main story of these 3 months, like going to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So that's something that I never thought I would do, to go start missional community there. But the idea that we could affect, the heart of a nation, one person at a time, was...
Okay, so you've graduated. There's how many of you going to Washington, D.C.?
7.
7 of them going together to plant a missional community. And a missional community is what to you? What does that look like?
Missional community, there's a lot of terms that get thrown around for it. Some people say house church. I don't really call it that. Missional community is a group of people that want to see one life change at a time on a yearly basis. And it's people that have accepted the love of the Lord, love Him back, love themselves, and now we want to give it away to someone else.
Right.
And so missional community, it's just a group of people that want to go in and for the purpose of love the people there.
Right. So you're gonna allow a multi-generational thing happen. You're gonna allow yourself to continue to be discipled by someone older.
Yeah.
You're gonna disciple some younger people,
Yeah.
and people your age and all around, and just show them the love of God,
Yeah.
and then invite them to come and just worship and be activated and live in that community.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I'm most excited about going to Washington, D.C. is now I get to give young men the hope that was set before me. Is I can say, hey, this is the hope that sent me down a road where I encountered good, beautiful, terrible, amazing things that allowed me to be in a position for the Lord to mold me. And now I get to say, this is the hope that did it for me, and I want you to embrace this too.
And so when you say one at a time, why do you say it that way? I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot.
Right.
I'm sure people listening are going, you're going to change one life over 1 year. I mean, that's going to take us thousands of years to reach people. What do you say to that?
I used to have, the first thing I'll say is I used to have these dreams where I wanted to speak in front of thousands and change lives for the Lord. And then I realized that that is an amazing thing, and there is a time and a place for everything under heaven. But the way to transform hearts is through one-on-one. One of the things we've learned here at G42 is discipleship is a slice of toast and a cup of tea. And that involves daily being in life together, doing the everyday. Even the mundane is actually something powerful in the Spirit. And so going forward, one person at a time, well, if the math is correct, I won't bore you guys with it, but if the math is correct, then if 10 people can get one person per year, and then actually, 30 people can get one person per year, and that just keeps doubling and doubling and doubling, we'll have the world covered in 30 years.
30 years, as the waters cover the sea, everyone's being discipled around the world.
What's
13 some billion, actually. It's big numbers.
It's not about heaven and hell.
Yeah.
It's a life and death thing. This is an eternity thing. So we're not focused on getting people out of hell. We're focused on bringing the kingdom of God, awaken people's hearts in our everyday life.
That's it. And so it's not a ticket out of hell or a ticket into heaven. The point isn't heaven. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that we get to go to heaven and spend eternity with God and all with everybody that we know.
Yeah.
But the point is to bring heaven to earth now.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what would you say to your generation? What's a challenge that you would throw out there as we end? What's your heart for Maryland, where you're going, in DC, and your heart for a generation?
I have chased dreams, I've chased desires, I've chased experience and attached value to experiences. And to my generation, I would say, don't seek those things out. Seek instead the love of the Lord that you're not familiar with, but is waiting for you. And I think that that's going to take a little bit of perseverance, because my generation, it's not that we want things handed to us. We can't physically, it's hard to physically force ourselves to do something if we don't see value in it. But the love of the Lord is in the mundane. There is a homeless man on the street that is waiting for you to stop and smile at him. There's a woman at a coffee shop that just needs a word of encouragement. If you want to be activated in the love of the Lord and experience the love of the Lord, well, take what you have and then go give it away. Yeah. The only way to keep this thing and to get more of it is to give it away. So take the love in your heart and go do something with it.
You have to go do something. You have to be activated.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you hear what he's saying. It's the reason we're doing missional communities is that we believe, and God told me this the other day, There's a lot of people sitting on that third and fourth and fifth row in churches, millions of them all over the world, that have never been activated, never been told that they could go prophesy over people or go lay hands on the sick. And what you're saying is you want to activate everybody around you first with that love that you got hit with.
Right.
Stop trying to love God and let him just love you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to teach them how to go do that same thing.
Right.
And then we get to cover the whole earth.
Yeah.
Nicholas,
Come
man,
on.
it's your birthday,
Hey.
23. Dude, I'm proud of you. Here we go. Off to DC.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the time, man.
Sure.
God bless you.